Casanovians. Yes, the Casanovians. Hopefully that got captured. Sometimes the YouTube lag. She's a harsh mistress. Yes, the Casanovians. One of those definitely got captured. Yeah, bro. I hope you're well. What I wanted to do is I always put his live streams together because I think it's a really interesting topic, and I want to discuss in this one the guys who will dominate cold approach in 2026. And really, what I want to speak about in this live stream is more of the character traits associated with what it takes to be successful with cold approach, with women. And by the end of this stream, I think the cool part is we can all make the decision to embody these characteristics. Okay. So even if you're a complete beginner right now and you've got a lot of anxiety, or maybe you've cold approached, but you've been inconsistent. Yeah. You know, you could be doing more. You know, you're capable of more. Maybe you've already proved to yourself that you can be successful when it comes to making money, building a good body, developing your internal mindset, but maybe you've not had the same success as of yet with cold approach, or maybe you've been in the game for a long time, you've got to an advanced level, but maybe even for you, you just feel as though something's missing. Maybe you're not enjoying it anymore. Maybe you're stuck in the solo grind, going out every Saturday, doing your 10 sets, and then you've got nobody to share it with. So yeah, by the end of the stream, I just want to give you what I know to be true based around my experience of working with over 200 guys, running the number one network on the planet for guys who not just want to become elite at the game of cold approach, but who want to become elite at the game of life. Because as you understand by now, daytime cold approach is the most aggressive form of self-development. I see it almost as a religious practice. I think all religions function to take us closer to the divine. Okay. I think that is the point of a religion. It's a bridge which allows you to experience the divine, which is what I describe as godly frequency. Being in this state where all of your stress, all of your worry, all of your anxiety disappears. And in that moment, you connect with who you actually are. And this is what I try and get everybody to understand. Your natural confidence is already there. It's just buried under layers of bullshit, of fear, sedation, compliance, conformity, all stitched into a mask that you call you. In the same way that every guy already has a six pack, it's just buried under a layer of fat. So the good news is anybody can develop these character traits. And what I try and make you aware of is I'm not teaching you how to cold approach. I'm not even teaching you how cold approach works. I'm teaching you how you can become the version of yourself who cold approach can work for. So before we dive balls deep into this one, I just want to make a quick announcement. The doors to the Entourage, so my private community, the doors are now reopen. So for the next 7 days, you can reserve your spot inside the Entourage for £999. So basically, it works out to £11 per day, which for most of you is less than your daily lunch bill. So for less than your daily lunch, you can get access to a brotherhood of men who will impact more than just your dating life. So after these 7 days, the price increases to £2,500. It's not a marketing tactic. This is the final time it will be available at this price because £999 for 90 days of access, accountability, getting connected with the most elite wingmen on the planet, weekly group coaching calls that usually go on for about 3 hours. It's an absolute steal. Okay, so for the next 7 days, £999. If you want to reserve your place inside the Entourage, you have to schedule a call with me first because I want to make sure that, first of all, you're somebody that I want inside of the Entourage. And also, I think you're somebody who would benefit from being inside the Entourage. So if you want to reserve your place inside the Entourage at the lowest ever price before the price increases to 2,500, then the first link below this video, that'll take you there. You can schedule a one-on-one call with me. Even if I don't think you're the right fit for the Entourage, I'll still do my best to help you as much as possible on that call. I don't believe in high pressure sales tactics. I've got enough clients. I've got enough cash in the bank. Really, my goal, to be completely transparent with you, is I want to create the best community that's ever existed, specifically for daytime call approach. I think it's already there, but for me, I'm never satisfied, right? I've got this obsession with progression, and maybe if you're anything like me, you've just got this insatiable appetite for mastery. Yeah, so I just want to get. I almost feel like a football manager. You know what I mean? It's like I want to assemble the greatest team, right? All of the Renaissance men out there who resonate with me. I want them inside the entourage because I'm going all the way to the top. I'm taking my people with me. We also have international meetups throughout the year as well. Like, dude, we've had guys who've joined the entourage. They never even met me in person. They've never even done in-person coaching. They've got girlfriends. They've obliterated approach anxiety. They've changed careers. They've started making more money because of the accountability, because of the permission, and because of the brotherhood that they surround themselves with. So, anyway, if you're interested in joining, you can reserve your place right now. Have a call with me. We'll find out if you're a weirdo. If you're not a weirdo, then maybe you'll enjoy the entourage. But anyway, let's let's get into the juicy topic. So you might want to take notes on this one because I'm going to go balls deep on these character traits. And if I do say anything of value, then feel free to drop this live stream a like. It also helps me if you drop the live stream a like because it means that I can actually see that there's people on this stream with me because I don't enable the live chat, so it's just me talking into the ether. Cheers, nice one. So the first character trait that I've noticed with guys, and these are the guys who will dominate in 2026, is the guys who can minimize the time between thought and action. Okay. Because I think one of the fucked up things about life is you only realize you've wasted your potential when it's already gone. Yeah. I think that is one of the fucked up things about life. You only realize you've wasted your potential when it's already gone. Let me tell you a quick story to show you what I mean. So, the other month, I was on a call with a guy, 47-year-old guy, and he was interested in joining the entourage, right? So, for 999, less than your daily lunch bill, right? So, he already knew the price when he was coming onto the call. So, he's having a conversation with me. Everything was cool. You know, he was doing well in life, he was successful in multiple different areas, but he just had this terror of approaching women his entire life. Yeah, despite all of his materialistic success, he had built an identity around himself as the perfect man, right? Because he was successful in every other area, he developed this ego protection, this self preservation mechanism where the idea of walking over to a woman and being rejected, it wasn't just embarrassment. For him, he explained, it almost felt like a denunciation of everything he'd created, right? Developing this perfectionist persona, being this high value guy. It's almost like these women for him symbolized regression. Because I think for a lot of successful guys, something that I've realized is a lot of guys, they can appear polished on the on the exterior, but they can still feel like the ugly duckling on the inside. And no matter how much they achieve, no matter how jacked they get, no matter how much money they make, there's still this crippling underlying fear of what if they find out? Like, what if they find out I'm actually not that guy internally? And this is what I've found to be true with so many guys that I've worked with is this really is an identity game that we're playing. You can have it all on the exterior, but if you still feel like the ugly duckling on the inside, it's almost like working your bollocks off to buy a Lamborghini and then being too scared to drive it. So we were having this conversation, me and this 47-year-old guy, and everything was going great. And then I was like, all right, cool. I'll send the invoice over. We'll get you inside the entourage and we'll just get cracking. And then the weirdest thing happened where he turned around and he said to me, I think I just need more time to think about it. And at that point, I almost spat out my wisdom teeth. I was like, what do you mean? More time to think about it? Because I'm empathetic. I do have empathy. for men out there, because I've been in that position where you just don't know what you don't know, right? You already know my story. Yeah, 6 years ago, porn addict, erectile dysfunction, had £24.82 of universal credit in my bank account. No woman wanted to bang me. I was the lowest of the low. So I do understand what it's like to be scared and afraid and battling with that perceived lack of self worth. I get it. But also, I've got this strong masculine presence within me to call people out on their nonsense. I was like, dude, what is there left to think about? You're 47 years old. You've still not got this area of life handled. Thinking is the exact reason why you're stuck. And he didn't like that. He didn't like it. I think he'd been, you might be watching his stream actually. I think he'd been very used to being the highest status guy in the room, like nobody calling him out on his bullshit, which wouldn't be an appropriate fit anyway. Like I work with guys who understand they don't know what they don't know. They've reached a point in their life where they're like, okay, I would actually like help in this delicate area, and I'm prepared to do not my best, but I'm prepared to do what is necessary. So it turned out it wasn't the right fit in the end. The reason why I tell this story is because the guys who get the best results with daytime cold approach, they're the guys who minimize the time between thought and action. Because his fear of joining the entourage, that hesitation, being in his head thinking, oh, but what if this doesn't work? And like, dude, it works as long as you do. At the end of the day, a personal trainer can't lift the weight for you. Yeah, if you want to stuff your face with Krispy Kreme at 12 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, that's on you. Yeah, the personal trainer can give you accountability, he can give you feedback, he can give you support, but you need to want this. Yeah, and it's what I found to be true after working with over 200 guys is the guys who have the biggest why are the ones who dominate with cold approach. So first of all, before we unpackage that, first of all, minimizing the time between thought and action. Okay, if you imagine today you go out, because an exercise that I give beginner clients to do is go out and aim to do 3 direct approaches in 30 minutes. That is a super practical exercise that anybody can do today to quickly make peace with their approach anxiety. Because what usually happens is guys will dedicate an entire day to approaching, and they mean well, right? I get it. I used to do that when I was 13 years old and I was trying to be a magician. I would obviously, I had a lot of time on my hands, right? So I would go out into parks around the Lake District. I would give myself an entire day to approach one person to try and show them some magic. And every time I bailed. This went on for 2 months where I just couldn't pluck up the courage to approach a stranger. And what I realized is the reason why I'm failing is because I'm giving myself too much time to do a simple task. Because what I found to be true is work will expand to the time allocated to it. So if you give yourself a whole day, it'll take a full day. What I found to work best is condensing the time to accelerate the action. So what I mean by this is if you go out today, you give yourself 30 minutes, you can set a timer on your phone, aim to do 3 approaches in 30 minutes. If you get to the end of those 30 minutes and you've done no approaches, forget about it. Get on with the rest of your day, hit it again another day. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll end up walking around on your own for hours. Maybe you'll start listening to one of my live streams while you're walking around the shopping mall. You'll start to feel increasingly strange. You'll start to think you've got this dirty secret. You'll end up walking past the same. You end up walking past the same middle-aged women. You bet, oh my god, they know. So what I would say is just aim to do 3 approaches in 30 minutes. And this is one way you can minimize the time between thought and action because now you've got a condensed time period, right? And it's almost like I don't know if you know Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder, but he had this mantra which was go hard and go home. Like he was super focused on super intense sessions, just ripping the weights and then getting on with the rest of his day. And this is how I like to approach the game of approaching, especially if you're a beginner. Another thing as well, when it comes to minimizing the time between thought and action, is when you are out there in the field. I know how scary it is when you're first out there. You've got so many voices going through your head. You're getting bombarded with the avalanche of anxiety. You are worried what other people think of you. You feel that social spotlight. You're just in your head. Yeah, I get that. But what I found to work best, and I call this social sabotage mode, and it's very useful for guys who are scared of rejection. is actually go out and for the first three approaches, just aim to get rejected. All right. Because I remember I've got one of my clients, Richie. Richie's actually very similar to the 47-year-old guy that I just mentioned earlier. Apart from Richie actually took action. Dude, Richie is absolutely flying. This is actually a very inspiring story for anybody out there who feels as though it's too late or they've left it too long, or if they just think, yeah, cold approach can work, but I'm not sure if it can work for me. So when I first started working with Richie, he hadn't been with a woman for 4 years, right? So he'd been in this 4 year dry spell, but he was successful in every area. Basically, the way Richie's life worked was he was working 12, 14-hour days. He was behind a computer screen a lot because he's an international business owner. He does his own thing. And he wasn't existing in the outside world. And like that 47-year-old guy, Richie had built this identity around himself, this identity of the perfect guy. So the idea of cold approaching women, it wasn't just scary, it was fucking terrifying because Richie's thought process was if I put myself in front of a woman and she says no, it will almost obliterate everything that I believe to be true about myself. And this is a question that I get my clients to ask themselves as well. What do you believe to be true about the world that isn't? And who would you be in the absence of your concerns? I got that quote from Peter Crone, who's a really awesome guy. He's called the Mind Architect. And one of Peter Crone's famous mantras is who would I be in the absence of my concerns? In other words, what would you do if you weren't scared? What would you do if you no longer negotiated with fear? I think that's just a really nice question to ask yourself on a daily basis. Do you know what I mean? Like, who would I be in the absence of my concerns? Who would you actually be if you weren't scared? It's just really interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, who would you actually be if fear wasn't a thing? Anyway, so Richie had this terror of approaching women, right? He was shit scared to go out and approach women because it was like fucking ego battering. So the exercise that I gave to Richie, and this is really useful right now, if you're somebody who is successful in lots and lots of areas, you've got your career, you've got your fashion, you've got your fitness, you've got your finances. The exercise that I gave to Richie was to go out to be rejected. And the reason why this works for somebody like Richie is because it gives him an element of control. If he's the one who decides the outcome, the fear loses its hold. But if he was going out to get phone numbers and he didn't get the number, he would have felt like a failure. And this is a big thing for guys. You might not necessarily be scared of being rejected right now. It's more so, what does that rejection represent? Not just to you, but to the child inside of you, because that's what's happening when we're going out to approach, and not a lot of people understand this. People say it's you versus you. Kind of. I think it's you having to hold hands with the scared child inside of you. I think that's what's happening. So I think that, you know, if you're anything like me, when I was growing up, I was pretty shit at a lot of things. Okay, I didn't come from this loving, stable household. So my parents got divorced when I was about 5 years old. I lived with my mum for most of my young life, and my mum's got a lot of mental health issues. So she was working multiple jobs just so she could support us. But the problem was because she was so stressed, I was often the emotional brunt of her fluctuating feelings. So I developed unknowingly, I developed this fear of the feminine for during my formative years. So one of my biggest problems when it came to women, not just cold approach, but just interacting with women in general, was the fear of failure. It was the fear of upsetting the feminine, of getting a bad reaction, and me feeling as though I'd done something wrong. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying to you is when you're out there, you might think you've got approach anxiety, but really, I think what you've got is unresolved fears. Yeah. And there's no getting around it because I am an advocate of exposure therapy, right? I've never done the 8-week therapy course where I talk about my hashtag feelings. I'm somebody who believes deeply in rejection desensitization, of exposure therapy, of running headfirst towards the thing that causes you the most resistance. Because I think that's where the beauty really is. So for Richie, I gave him the task of going out to be rejected, and that worked wonders because now he felt in control of the outcome. This is what I found with a lot of successful guys. And to be transparent, even for myself as well, there's this need for control. Yeah. Because I think one of the problems with cold approach is the uncertainty. Because you might not be scared of rejection per se. It might more be so the uncertainty. You don't know what type of reaction you're going to get from the woman. So what that causes you to do is think way too many steps ahead, and you end up talking yourself out of the approach because in your mind you've already experienced a future which was undesirable. Yeah. I think one of the reasons why we fear failure is because we judge others who fail. That's what I found to be true. I think one of the reasons we fear failure is because we judge others who fail. Yeah. So, to make this practical, you can actually go out with the mindset today to be rejected. This is an exercise that the guys in the entourage have been doing recently, going out to be rejected. I've got a video on this. The main video on my channel, you know, the video where I approached 33 women in London to overcome my fear of rejection. To this day, that is my favorite video I've ever created because I prove in real time that when you make a joke out of rejection, when you actively go out seeking the perceived worst case scenario, by the end of that session, dude, I'd experienced the divine. I was on godly frequency. I felt as though I could do anything. It was just incredible. To this day, I've not made a video. I've not experienced a state which came close to that. That was probably one of the best days of my life. It's kind of weird to say that, but it just was. Because I just remember feeling as though I'd experienced the truth. The truth. I don't even know how to define truth. Maybe the end of inquiry. I guess that's a logical way of defining it. But I felt as though I'd experienced the truth because I realized it's kind of weird sometimes for me to install these mindsets into people because I say to people like, you're probably not going to understand half the shit I say until you're actually out there in the field approaching. You know, those first 100 approaches, they are brutal. It feels as though you're chewing glass. But a lot of the stuff that I say, they might sound poetic, but they actually are practical when you actually start living it. So I'll say things like the way you start is not the way you finish. I'll say belief follows action. I'll say that when you're out in the field, it's not you versus you. It's you holding hands with the infant inside of you who's just scared and afraid and just wants to be wanted and is terrified of not receiving love and approval and admiration from the feminine. It's like, So a lot of the shit that I say, it makes no fucking sense until you're actually out there in the field. But the main thread of this, I think we started off with the guys who are able to minimize the time between thought and action. Those are the guys who will dominate with cold approach, and I know how scary it is. It's almost this. It's this. It's this dive bombing into the unknown, right? You see a woman, you want to talk to her, and it's the uncertainty. You're worried about. Maybe you're worried about getting a bad reaction. Maybe you're worried about coming across as weird or creepy. For me as well, there was always this fear. I don't know if you've had this before. There was this fear of not feeling as though I'd presented my true self. I don't know if you've had this where you're in an approach and it doesn't feel like it's you talking. It feels like something else. It's like the conditioning is talking. It feels like the conditioning has got its fist up your ass, like a ventriloquist dummy doing the talking for you. I think one of the worst things is to come out of a conversation feeling as though it wasn't really you in there. Because I think that's another thing for me as well. I've always had this deep need for external recognition. You know, I'm deeply insecure. I mean, why the fuck do you think I put a YouTube channel together? It's like, oh, please like me, please give me attention. Only child syndrome 101. But I think for me is like, especially when I was first learning cold approach, I wanted to be validated for my conversation skills. You'll see it in my early conversations. I gave off this entertainer, street performer energy because I didn't look very good, because I didn't have a lot of money, because I wasn't I didn't really have direction in my life when I was first approaching. The one thing that I could attach importance to was my conversation skills. So I went overboard on my crazy, nonsensical, off the wall conversations because it was the only thing that I could try and find that I could be validated with. Now, in my conversations, you'll notice I'm not really doing anything crazy in my conversations anymore. A lot of the communication is happening non-verbally. I'm really allowing the silence to do the work. I'm focusing on the stop. I'm creating more of this hypnotic effect with the girl where it creates this private bubble where it feels as though it's just me and her in this conversation. And something that I've realized because inside the entourage, our guys are one of the cool things in the entourage is we give you personalized feedback on your conversations. Okay. So remember earlier, I was saying a lot of guys, they don't know what they don't know. I'd say an intermediate issue is your conversation. And what I found now is a lot of guys, they don't have cold approach problems. They've actually got communication problems. So one of our newer members of the entourage, he joined the entourage and he'd never done a daytime approach in his entire life. And he joined the entourage, he got round the right people, we installed all of the necessary mindsets and character traits and belief systems. Now he can approach. Like approaching is no longer a problem for him. And again, he's not done any in-person coaching. He just joined the entourage. We took care of everything for him. But now his next problem is his conversations, is his overall communication skills. And I want to give you some practical things here. One second, I'm going to burp. Oh, so nice. It doesn't get more authentic than this. AI cannot replace raw authenticity, belching on a live stream. What was I going to say to you? Sound like a mouse. What was I going to say? Ah, yeah, conversation, communication skills. So a practical thing, okay? Because okay, if you're somebody right now and you can approach, but maybe you keep running out of things to say, or maybe you've not approached yet, but one of your fears is, what if I approach? What if my mind goes blank? What if I run out of things to say, and then it feels awkward? It might take you back to a moment in time where maybe you were at school, you put your hand up to answer a question, but you got the question wrong, and you felt this public embarrassment, this public judgment, right? Which is another reason why cold approach is so hard, because you're essentially putting your head above the parapet and saying, "This is me, judge me." It's like walking stark bollock naked, metaphorically, through the streets of Leicester. It's like it's not a normal thing to want to do. And this is why I believe the guys who dominate with cold approach, they're not normal people, right? You probably know already, especially if you resonate with my stuff, that you're not normal, right? You're probably a renegade, a pirate, a maverick. You're probably somebody who doesn't want to be plunged into the same bracket as everybody else. You probably know deep down there is something unique. There is something special about you, and you know that. I think there's this knowingness. I think it was Oprah. I'm sure it was Oprah who was like, I knew I was famous before I ever became famous. I think some people, they just have this knowingness that they were destined for greatness. And I think if you resonate with me, if you resonate with Cold Approach, you probably already know you're not normal. And I love that. I think it's beautiful because who the fuck wants to be normal, right? So, one of the practical things that I get our guys to do in the entourage now is write down 3 things that are interesting about you and then memorize these stories so you can bring them into your conversations. Because if you know what you're going to say ahead of time, it can reduce the anxiety you feel going into the conversation. So I think that a lot of guys don't even have approach anxiety. I think they've got conversation anxiety. I think the idea of approaching, fine, easy, I can do that. But how the fuck do I carry a conversation for 8 minutes with a stranger who I've just met without it getting awkward? And by the way, there will be awkward moments. I think this is another thing that guys need to understand. You know, you'll always get these basement dwellers online who watch my content or other guys who are posting cold approach stuff, and it's like, oh, so cringe, bro. Oh, this is so cringe. Oh, it's so embarrassing. And it's like, motherfucker, yes, yes, it's cringe. Of course, it's fucking cringe. Like, you have to embrace that though. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of guys they have this need for perfection where it's like they want to be this like smooth James Bond archetype who just rolls in easy conversation, so smooth, and then just rolls out with the number. It's like that's not how real life works, right? Daytime call approach is messy, it's awkward, it's embarrassing, it's cringe. There'll be a fluctuation of feelings that you experience during a session, but that's why nobody does it. And that's why it's the most aggressive form of self development. And that's why I do see it as this modern day rite of passage where we don't need to go into the wilderness anymore for 40 days and 40 nights and return as men. Everything is easy, everything is comfortable. But I think the guys who can embark on this unorthodox odyssey, they realize the truth. They realize that so many people today are living like accidents. And I think one of the worst things about life is you only realize you made the wrong decisions when it's too late. I don't want to get to the end of my days thinking, you know what, I could have done more. I could have put myself out there. I could have gone after the things that I wanted rather than settling for the things that I thought I could get. But instead, I marinated in the matrix of mediocrity. I don't want that. Like that really, that's one of those things that to be really transparent, that's one of the things that keeps me awake at night is like not I don't know if actualizing potential is right. So I don't even know if I don't know. There's just like this like sometimes I just stay awake at night and I have this like crippling anxiety, which is like, am I doing enough? Like, can I be impacting more people at a larger scale? Like, am I really speaking to the people that I need to speak to? Like, I don't know if you have this, where you're just awake and you're just like, I don't know if I'm doing enough. It's like you've just got these like these like empire visions. Like you've seen the future, you know who you're capable of being, you know what you can achieve, and it's like it's just a weird. It's this weird dichotomy where it's like you know who you could be, but it's like you always feel as though you could be doing more. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because otherwise, I think otherwise you just stay satisfied, don't you? You just stay in this mediocre place. So I think it's a superpower and a kryptonite depending on how you use it. But anyway, in terms of conversations, what you'll notice in my conversations is my conversations pretty much follow the same basic thread, right? So I'll approach women, I'll give them a compliment, and then what I do is I transition into the story of me, which is what I recommend you do. A lot of guys are like, oh, Christian, I don't know what to say after giving the compliment. Tell the story of you. And this is why if you write down 3 things that are interesting about you, you'll always have things to talk about. So, for example, we've got guys in the entourage who create their own music. We've got guys who are digital nomads. We've got guys who train martial arts. We've got guys who are boxers. We've got guys who are building businesses. So if you've got 3 things that are interesting about you, and then to take it a layer deeper, this is really cool as well. Remember, men speak in the language of logic, women speak in the language of emotion. So once you've got your 3 stories, so for example, I talk about being in Bangkok for 6 months, training Muay Thai. I talk about being a magician, and oftentimes I'll talk about international travel. So when you've got your 3 stories, so for me, it's being in Bangkok for 6 months, training Muay Thai, being a magician, and then international travel. What you can do is once you've got these things that you're going to speak about, is you attach emotional depth. And the easiest way to attach emotional depth to a conversation, a topic, or an idea is just by saying the reason why. Yeah, the reason why. So one of our guys inside the entourage is a teacher. And for a long time, he was struggling to emotionally connect with women. He could approach fine. He could carry a decent conversation, but a lot of times it was just this like surface level shit chat where things were not really going anywhere. So what I said to him was, first of all, you want to start telling the story of you, because a big reason why women flake is because they didn't have enough context about who you actually are as a person. So he would go into his conversations, he wouldn't talk a lot about himself, or if he did talk about himself, he'd just say, oh, I'm a teacher, and leave it like that. So I said to him, what you really want to be doing is going deeper on your why. Okay, like why you do what you do. So we crafted a emotionally charged story together, which allowed him to create more of this depth with the women that he was speaking with. So for him, it was something along the lines of, oh, I'm a teacher. The reason why I decided to be a teacher is because when I was younger, I had this one teacher in my school who I remember to this day, and they weren't the greatest. They didn't help me the most academically, but what they really installed into me was belief that I could actually do it. So the reason why I wanted to become a teacher was because I wanted to give that same level of belief to the children who I work with. I don't know if you can I don't know if you can relate with that, where it feels like the thing that you do is bigger than yourself. These mental participation phrases when you're telling a story is really important, are really important as well. I don't know about you, or I don't know if you can relate with this, or I don't know if you've ever experienced this before. You use these mental participation phrases to help people be engaged and also to emotionally experience the emotions with you. So really practical. If you're running out of things to say in your conversations right now, write down 3 things that are interesting about you, memorize these things, and then bring them into your conversations. And that's basically cold approach. It's overcoming that initial resistance, carrying a conversation that builds emotional depth, which allows a girl to understand you do have a life outside of women, and then simply putting an invitation out there. Yeah, and seeding the idea of the date during the conversation. So rather than just taking the phone number and bouncing, planning the date, creating the momentum whilst you're in the conversation. So listen, another time I'd love to take you to my favorite restaurant in London. It's called Daphne's. This Saturday, I'll see you there, 7 p.m. Wear your best dress. That's basically cold approach. I've also got an entire free course on conversation skills as well. So all my courses are free, by the way. You don't need to pay me a penny. I give away information and I charge for implementation. That's what the entourage is for. If you just want to skip all the trial and error, remove all the guesswork, if you want to be able to ask me questions regarding your unique situation, if you want to get around guys who can hold you accountable, who can give you support, who can give you personalized feedback on your conversations, that's what the entourage is for. And again, it's 999 right now. That's in Great British pounds. In a week, the price will be jumping to 2,500. So right now, you can get access to everything, the greatest cold approach network on the planet, for less than your daily lunch bill, which is a great fucking deal. This is going to impact way more than just your dating life. So yeah, I've got a free course. It's called Conversation Killer. If you could just type in on Google, I guess, Christian Casanova Conversation Killer, and that will give you the A to Z blueprint on lesser known conversation techniques that make cold approach easy. So if you're somebody who's struggling with your overall conversation skills right now, I put that course together 2 years after I started cold approach. So I think why that course is actually very valuable is because that was me 2 years in. So right now, you might be watching my conversations and think, oh, there's too much of a gap here, right? But what I'm happy about is I've immortalized who I was like back in 2022 in Conversation Killer. So you actually might find Conversation Killer more relatable. So just type in Christian Casanova on Google, Conversation Killer, and you can get, it's like a 4 hour course on conversation skills, like A to Z on conversation communication mastery, specifically for cold approach conversation. So we talk about a shitload of conversation techniques that you've probably never heard of before. So yeah, Conversation Killer, Christian Casanova, just type it on Google. You can get instant access to that. Um, so yeah, I think there was one more. Oh, there was some. That's right. There was a thread that I didn't finish. Remember, I was saying earlier, the guys who will dominate with cold approach in 2026, they're the guys who've got a big enough why. Yeah. So what I found to be true, having now worked with over 200 guys, is the guys who get the best results are the guys who are crystal clear on why they're actually doing it. And here's something interesting. By the way, if you're enjoying this live stream, then feel free to drop it a like. I feel as though we are. I feel as though we're changing the world, one piece of content at a time. I really do. I really do think and feel that way. I think that everything that we're doing over here is just changing the world. Um, on a multifaceted level. But anyway, drop the live stream a like if you're enjoying the free value. Yes, why? Here's the interesting thing, right? What I found is when you're out there in the field, and maybe you've been in the game for a long time, and maybe you started to lose some momentum, maybe you're starting to get sick of the solo grind, maybe you are doing your approaches, but maybe the approaches are not leading to anywhere, maybe you're getting phone numbers that flake, maybe you're being left on red, maybe you're going on dates, but you're not getting a second date, or the dates are not converting the way you want, and now you're starting to get in your head. You're starting to think, is this a waste of time? Oh, it works for other guys, but maybe it just doesn't work for me. Maybe I should go back to the dating apps. And what I found to work best is if you understand that it's not just you that you're doing it for. This has been the mindset which has allowed me to get through, I call it the chewing glass phase. Where you're just eating shit, dude. Let's be real. Like you start cold approach, you're just getting metaphorically pummeled in the bollocks. Nothing's going right, nothing's converting. You're watching videos, you are taking action, but it's not fucking working. The thing that always helped me was understanding it's deeper than just me. Okay, because when I'm going out there to approach now, I'm like, I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it for that scared, lost little boy inside of me who needs his hand to be held. I'm doing it as a reactionary movement against a society that wants to keep you shackled. Oh, be a good boy. Don't put your head above the parapet. Work your 9 to 5. Ask for permission when you're allowed to go for a shit. Because this is the thing as well. Like every time you see a beautiful woman who you feel this biological impulse to talk to, but you don't do it because you're negotiating with fear, you're essentially saying to society, hey, I'm happy being mediocre. Yeah, I'm happy being this programmable static spectator. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with mediocrity. I'm okay marinating in fear. And this is why when you do an approach, if you changing the outcome is so important. So rather than going in there to get a phone number, to get a date, to get a happy ending, when you're first doing cold approach, you're doing it to invest into the identity of the version of yourself who you want to embody. And this is why the first thing that I get guys to do when they join the entourage is create a personal renaissance document. Remember earlier I was saying to you, this is an identity game that we're playing. But the problem with guys is they don't know who they want to be. It's almost like sitting on a plane, not knowing where the destination is. All right. If you know the destination, your decisions will determine where you get to. So what I found to be super useful in my own life, God, I want to sound like it's going to be Dutch said, super useful. It's not even funny. Was actually just creating a personal renaissance document. So it's where you write about yourself in the third person as though the person who you want to be has already happened. Just type in, go on a conversation killer, and you'll be able to find my other free course, which is called my Most Fuckable Man course. And basically, there's a module in that. It's titled Mindset Mastery. It'll teach you how to rewire your entire internal belief system and become the version of yourself you cold approach can work for. It's really fucking good. But anyway, when you're going out there, the story you tell yourself is so important because Plato said it best. People who tell stories rule the world. There's no objective truth in life. The truth is whatever you decide it to be. And this is why I think you need to be delusionally optimistic at the start. This is what I did. 6 years ago, I was a porn addict, I had erectile dysfunction, no woman wanted to bang me, I had £24.82 of universal credit. I've been pretty much a failure for most of my adult life. I had a lot of underlying issues going on. I just wanted to be wanted, I wanted validation, I was deeply insecure, I wanted external validation, etc., etc. The thing that really helped me was starting to tell myself a better story, right? Starting to be delusionally optimistic about the version of myself who I could be. So when you are going out there to approach, just remind yourself this is way bigger than just you. You're doing this for your future family. And a really great mindset, and this is the thing that I'll leave you with on the stream, right? One of the best mindsets that I ever had installed into me by the guy who coached me with cold approach is he said, Christian, treat every approach as preparation for the woman, your wife worthy woman, right? Now I've got a girlfriend. Now I'm in the most beautiful, loving, abundant relationship that I've ever been in my life. And the thing is, when I approached her outside of a fucking Starbucks, it wasn't that approach that got me her. It was the compounding interest of all of the approaches I'd done previously. And this is why cold approach is hard to get your head round. Because you might be approaching for 3 months, not really getting a lot of traction. But I do believe the universe rewards action takers. It was a Roman poet, Virgil, who said it best. Blessings on your courage, boy. That's the way to the stars. I find that the guys who dominate with cold approach are the guys who can go from one approach to another without losing any enthusiasm. That's easier said than done. This is why having accountability, having feedback, surrounding yourself with guys who've already walked the path. That's the cheat code for fast tracking this whole thing. I do think solo cold approach in 2026, I do think it's a brutal, lonely game. I think you get in your head, you run out of steam, you lose momentum, and also you've got nobody to normalize the ugly stage or just the ugly stages. Because, dude, I've been approaching for 6 years now. When I go out, my first 3 approaches are typically shit, but nobody tells you this. right? All of these nonsense coaches online will be like, oh, yeah, you just get to this point where you can approach and you're not going to feel any fear anymore. It's like, that's not the point of this game. You want to feel fear. You want to feel uncertain because the uncertainty is a sign that you're exactly where you need to be. Uncertainty means you're stepping into bigger shoes. So it's not about eradicating the feelings, it's about embracing them. It's about learning how to dance with them and realizing they're not your enemy. They're just a part of you. And usually it's just that child inside of you that's kicking and screaming. So you're learning how to be a parent to yourself. It's like Freud said, the adult is developed to protect the child, right? So the adult that we become is designed to protect the child that we once were. And that's why I see this as the most aggressive form of self-development, because yeah, you can build your body, you can build your mindset through gratitude journaling or red light therapy, you can build your business, you can get all the cash in the world, but I do think a lot of these things are avoidance mechanisms for the fear of being judged, the fear of public humiliation, the fear of failure. And that's the beautiful thing about daytime call approach is it teaches you how to lose, and it teaches you how to lose with grace. I think that's what power really is. I think it's grace under pressure. I'm pretty sure that was Hemingway who said that. I think Ernest Hemingway said that courage is grace under pressure. That's a really beautiful quote. Yeah. Can't remember what were we talking about. I ended up zigzagging all the way to fucking Ernest Hemingway. How did we get here? 1 minute we were talking about approach anxiety. We got to Hemingway. It's a beautiful life. Apply for coaching. It's funny. It's funny because I'm actually going to go out to film some more content shortly, which is going to be awesome. I'm I do find it interesting because I've made over 1,000 videos now. I think I've made more infield videos than anybody else in this space because I've been making them now for the past 6 years. And it's interesting because there's not really any need for me to continue filming infield content. I could easily just ride this wave of success and, carefully curate my content so I can use like little bits of footage here and there. I could use that for the next decade. But remember earlier I was saying it's bigger than us, right? I think if I'm not consistently showing up and making this content, putting myself out there into the field, then what sort of leader am I? Like, how can I truly resonate with my students if I'm not going out there, if I'm not feeling those same emotions, those same anxieties, those same self limiting beliefs? So, my reason why now is different to when I first started, right? When I first started, I just wanted to basically, actually, there's two reasons why I wanted to do cold approach. I wanted to get over my erectile dysfunction, and I also wanted to become good enough to coach it because I hated my life. I needed to make cash, and I was just like, my shitty job at the National Railway Museum in York isn't paying the bills. Like, dude, when I was working at the National Railway Museum, I got paid like £1,246 a month. My expenses were about 1,200, so I was in the red for a long time. So I wanted to make cash. I wanted to overcome my erectile dysfunction. That's just me being completely transparent with you. But now, 6 years later, being in this beautiful, loving relationship, being the leader of the #1 call approach community on the entire planet, making more infield content than any motherfucker out there. My reason why now is more legacy. It's more, I want to put myself into the shoes of my beginner guys. I want to prove, I want to be that leading force in the entourage to be like, right, boys, I've invested more cash. I'm going to London. I'm just going to make more content. I'm going to make more content. That's something that we're doing inside the entourage now. When you guys are joining, because I think you've probably found this, you've probably got very unique and particular sticking points. Like you might have this really micro sticking point that you've never even heard any other coach address. Maybe, I don't know, your sticking point might be you for some reason you've got crazy approach anxiety as soon as you step off the train and you've got this really you've got this fear of approaching inside of a fucking train station. I don't know. So what we're doing inside the entourage now is whatever our guys are struggling with, they just message me on WhatsApp and I will go out and I will make content around that sticking point. So this is like direct access to your personal sticking point. So I will personally address what you're struggling with. So the reason why I make content now is because I don't need to, but I want to. And one of my business mentors, William Brown. I worked with Will. When was it? Was it 2024? Anyway, I worked with Will, and he said to me once on a call, Christian, the day you make the most money will be the day you don't need to make the most money. And it's the same now. It's like I get so much fulfillment out of daytime approach because I don't need to do it. I get so much I get so much fulfillment out of making infield content because I don't need to do it. It's almost like a guy who's won 8 Olympic gold medals. It's like, well, let's go for the ninth. Why not? There's a really good book actually. It's called Relentless. I think Tim Grover, the trainer of Kobe and Michael Jordan, incredible. He did a podcast as well on Diary of a CEO. Really fascinating guy. And yeah, he was talking about winners who want to win more and having this drive and this desire and this determination, constantly setting new goals and striving for more and wanting to achieve more, not just for you, but for the people who matter to you, your family, your community, your friends, the future of your bloodline. Because, dude, I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, I refuse to outsource my confidence, my legacy, and the future of my bloodline to fucking algorithms, to apps, to alcohol. That's why I feel so passionate about this skill, because I think every single guy on the planet would benefit from learning the skill. Not of daytime call approach. Like, that's not what we're really talking about. Like, what is daytime call approach? It's learning how to be your own man. It's learning to be an independent thinker. It's learning to not negotiate with fear, to not allow the bullshit to dictate your reality. It's self-sovereignty. It's becoming a socially sovereign savage who just says fuck it, right? And I think that every person on this planet, man or woman, mouse or raptor, I think we can all agree, everybody's life would be more beneficial if they weren't negotiating as hard with fear. And again, I think I'll leave you with this. The fucked up thing about life is you only realize you've wasted your potential when it's already gone. There's more character traits that I should have spoke about. I'll do another live stream. I don't even know if I've got audio. That'd be shit. But anyway, I'm gonna go out into the field. I'm gonna make content for 4 hours. Then I'm gonna come back, and then I'm gonna edit it, and then hopefully at some point I'll speak to you on an Entourage application call. First link below. If you want to join the Entourage, you can reserve your place right now. $9.99. The price jumps to $2,500 next week. So right now you can get access to the #1 call approach community on the planet for less than your daily lunch bill, which is kind of nice. And yeah, this brotherhood will impact more than just your dating life, but fuck it, it's your life. Do whatever you want to do. Death comes to us all. So anyway, yeah, link below if you want to join. Reserve your place in the Entourage. You can do that. If not, that's fine. Continue to watch the free con. Also, Google Christian Casanova Conversation Killer to get my free Conversation Killer course. It's really fucking good. All right, cool. Nice one. Oh, by the way, if you've enjoyed this, drop it a like.